In the small village of Mvezo, South Africa, on July 18, 1918, a boy named Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was born. Little did the world know that this young child would one day challenge an entire regime, becoming a symbol of resistance and hope. Raised in the rural regions of the Eastern Cape, Mandela's childhood was humble, yet his heart yearned for something more than the oppression that surrounded him. His future, shaped by both his heritage and the brutal injustice of apartheid, would soon unfold in a way no one could have predicted. Mandela's early exposure to the inequalities of life in South Africa stirred something deep within him. As a young man, he studied at the University of Fort Hare and later at the University of Witwatersrand, where he was introduced to the ideas of equality and justice. But it wasn't until he moved to Johannesburg in the late 1940s that Mandela's passion for freedom truly ignited. Working as a lawyer, he witnessed firsthand the immense suffering caused by apartheid policies, and it was then that he made a life-changing decision: to join the African National Congress, ANC, and fight for change. In 1944, Mandela co-founded the African National Congress Youth League, which sought to unite the oppressed black population in a collective fight against apartheid. His work in the ANC brought him face to face with some of the most prominent figures in the struggle for equality. Mandela's leadership skills quickly became apparent, and by the early 1950s, he was at the forefront of efforts to challenge the discriminatory laws that entrenched racial segregation. His commitment to nonviolent resistance, inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, placed him on a dangerous path, but it was one he knew he could not turn back from. Mandela's pivotal moment came in 1949, when the ANC adopted the Program of Action, which aimed to challenge apartheid through mass protests and boycotts. The Defiance Campaign of 1952 was one of the first large-scale organized protests, and Mandela played a leading role in it. As a young lawyer, he had been advocating for equality, but now he was actively participating in the struggle, risking imprisonment. The campaign involved acts of civil disobedience and nonviolent resistance. And though it was met with violent repression from the apartheid government, it marked the beginning of a nationwide resistance. In 1961, after years of peaceful protest and increasing government repression, Mandela and other ANC leaders decided that the time for nonviolent resistance had passed. They formed the armed wing of the ANC, Umkhonto we Sizwe, to fight against apartheid through sabotage and guerrilla warfare. In 1962, Mandela was arrested and put on trial for his role in plotting sabotage against the government. During the Rivonia trial in 1964, Mandela's speech from the dock, declaring that he was prepared to die for the cause of freedom, captivated the world. He was sentenced to life in prison, marking the beginning of a 27-year-long imprisonment that would become his greatest challenge. Mandela's prison sentence saw him incarcerated on Robben Island, a desolate place that would become a symbol of both suffering and strength. For 18 of those years, Mandela endured harsh conditions, forced to do hard labor in a lime quarry, deprived of sunlight, and kept in a small, damp cell. Yet, even in the darkest moments, Mandela's resolve only grew stronger. He became a symbol of resistance, not only for South Africa, but for oppressed people everywhere. His leadership, wisdom, and unwavering belief in justice kept his spirit alive during his time on the island. While Mandela remained imprisoned, the call for his release grew louder across the globe. Activists, politicians, and celebrities rallied for his freedom, holding marches, signing petitions, and imposing sanctions on the apartheid regime. The struggle for Mandela's freedom became a global cause, with countries boycotting South Africa's sports and trade, hoping to bring international pressure to bear on the oppressive regime. The world's support for Mandela only made his message of freedom stronger, and the apartheid government's isolation deepened. In 1990, after 27 years of imprisonment, Nelson Mandela was finally released. His return to the outside world was nothing short of extraordinary. The streets of South Africa erupted in celebration as he walked free. But Mandela knew that his journey was far from over. The country was still divided, the wounds of apartheid deep. Mandela chose the path of reconciliation rather than revenge, and worked tirelessly to negotiate with the apartheid government. His leadership helped prevent a civil war and steered the country toward a peaceful transition to democracy. In 1994, Nelson Mandela was elected the first black president of South Africa, marking the official end of apartheid. The country was finally free, but the work of healing and rebuilding was just beginning. Mandela's presidency was a time of nation-building, as he sought to unite the country's fractured communities. He focused on dismantling apartheid-era policies and enacting laws that promoted racial equality and justice. Despite facing numerous challenges, Mandela's leadership ensured that South Africa avoided the violence that many had predicted. His commitment to forgiveness and reconciliation laid the foundation for a democratic and free South Africa. Nelson Mandela's journey from a young activist to a global symbol of peace and justice is a testament to the power of resilience, courage, and forgiveness. His life story transcends borders, inspiring millions around the world to fight for freedom, equality, and human rights. Even after stepping down from the presidency, Mandela remained a tireless advocate for global peace, social justice, and human rights. His legacy continues to inspire generations of leaders and activists in the fight for freedom and justice around the world.